To help us with this discussion, we have a very distinguished set of panelists. We have Joelle Smith from the Hub, who is a distinguished entrepreneur herself. We have Bianca Wells, who will provide entrepreneurship perspective for us, having gone through this journey that we're embarking on before, and she'll be able to share insights with us. We also have Adrian Dunkley, who is a very skilled technology, digital technology engineer and an AI, artificial intelligence expert. And we should have Cheryl Stewart joining us as well, from the Global Entrepreneurship Network, Jamaica, which is being launched in Jamaica around the same time we're launching Founders Institute. But we want to display a kind of attitude of collaboration and inclusiveness as we try to harness all our energies in a concentrated way to create the kind of shift we need. Before I ask the guests, the panelists to introduce themselves though, I just want to mention that we have a very entrepreneurial and innovative team that I've recognized, that I need to recognize as a local leaders for this initiative. We have Tenila Fedis, who is a entrepreneurship and innovation specialist herself. We have Tenila. And with her, we have Tenila Ossie, who is also a business development specialist. And we have Michael Gordon, who is behind the scene organizing everything for us. He is the Director of Innovation at UCC and an entrepreneur himself. I've been participating in a number of startups over there, mostly technology startups. And we have Tasheen Morrison, who is also part of the leadership team, who is also an entrepreneur in her own right, and has some credential having run an Accelerator Program in support of the Branson Center program there. So what I'm going to do is just go around the room and ask the panelists to quickly introduce themselves, and then start with the presentation from Cheryl. So what we'll do, we'll have a round of introduction and presentation, initial presentation, no more than 5 minutes. We're going to start with Cheryl Stewart, who is the MD for the Gen Jamaica network. And then we're going to ask her to be followed by Adrian Dunkley, who will give us a perspective on, some of the challenges in terms of the technology support required to create world-class businesses and where the opportunities might lie there. And then Joelle will provide a perspective as a co-working facilitator and all ecosystem enabler and her entrepreneur journey there. And then Bianca will close us out with our perspective on the missing link in the ecosystem, having been through this journey before, and is an entrepreneur and innovator in her own rights. But before we kick that off, I'm gonna ask Tenelia just to tell us why we're here, what this Founder Institute is about, and then we'll start with the presentations in the order I indicated. Tenelia, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Wayne. Good evening, everyone. I am one of the leaders at the Founder Institute for the Jamaican chapter. And tonight I'm just going to discuss as briefly as I can what Founder Institute really is, and why are you here in the first place? Why does it make sense to get involved in a program like this? So to start off, let me see if I can. So to start off, Founder Institute is the largest pre-seed accelerator in the world. Right now, we're counting about 4,500 startups and in more than 90 countries. And this organization has created at least 25,000 jobs worldwide. So you're not a part of a small organization and setup. It is global and it is massive with massive resources. So as you would have already known, if you've gone on our website, you would notice that we have the application to the core program. And what this really is, it's an action-oriented program where you get constant feedback from the mentors and leaders in your chapter and even globally. And you're also held accountable for growing your business. So it is definitely not a school where you go and just learn and do homework. You're actually here to do things, to actually grow and develop a real product and a real business. Now, the early deadline for this is the 30th of October, which is just next month. And the final deadline is December 4th. So you don't want to miss that. I would recommend, if you're really interested in starting this, the early deadline, you pay less for it. For the late deadline, you're at $500. The late deadline, you're paying about $600. So even if you're thinking of getting a scholarship, or you're thinking you can get a scholarship for the program, still apply now, so that at least we can get you through the application process and we get you started. So what is it? What is it that you're expected to see? Well, what we're doing is building the Silicon Valley experience. And this idea started out with founders Adair Riso and Jonathan Grecian. They were in Silicon Valley, and they saw that businesses and entrepreneurs, they were creating these companies, and a lot of them were failing. Even good ideas were failing because the entrepreneurs simply did not know what to do and when to do it. So they thought that they could build this sort of entrepreneurship university, and they started that in about 2009, where they brought entrepreneurs through a structured system based on their experience and experience of other mentors. And they would bring them through a process that wouldn't take years as normal, like about 2-3 years, but months, 3-4 months instead. And they saw great success. So about a few years after that, cities started asking for this core program, and other countries started asking for the core program. And right now, what they believe, basically what it is that they don't just start with an idea, they start with the founder, they start with the entrepreneur, because they believe that it's the business processes and the entrepreneurs themselves that make great businesses. So they believe that all businesses, that the world needs entrepreneurs, and that entrepreneurs can come from anywhere, from any part of the world, and they can make a real impact. They also believe that, businesses start off with great people. And this is why we start off with choosing great people first. And we ask you to apply individually, because we're building you a lot of the courses that you're going to go through are going to be leadership courses throughout the program. So first, you're going to start off with a core program, which is going to start in January. And the next 3-4 months after that, you'll be graduating. And what this really is a push to carry you through the different stages of your startup, no matter where you are. And there are 2 tracks. There is the launch track and the growth track. And the launch track is basically you have an idea, you're probably still in a full-time job, and you maybe have a small team, may or may not have a small team, and you may or may not have a tested prototype or testing a prototype. For the growth track, you already have a company going, you've built some traction, you have some customers, and you have some revenue, but you want to bring that up into the seed stage. So basically, this accelerator will take you through any stage that you are in the early stage. Now, pre-seed means that we're preparing you basically, you're not investment ready yet. And so we're taking you from, whether you're from the idea or you already have a product, we're taking you wherever you are in your company or wherever you are in your business, and we're going to take you up to the point where you would be ready for investment. So when you come in, you can choose either of these tracks. So the tracks vary. They look similar, but they vary in just some key areas. For the launch track, they're really talking about business validation, validation of your idea, your vision, helping you to select your team, and having progress on the product. It's about building an investor-friendly company and having clear milestones and actionable steps. For the growth track, you're looking for a significant KPI growth. So you're going to have a lot of targets that you're going to have to be meeting. You're going to be more investment ready. So we'll be focusing more about the pitches, and you're going to have this is bringing you through the processes and helping you to anchor down your business processes so that you can have a clear good product, validated team, and you have clear milestones, again, with actionable next steps. So this is what it looks like on the chart. And as you notice, as you go through the start and the end of the program, you are doing a lot of pitching for the entire time. You're doing customer development and leadership development. But we're going to throw in some legal things and things about branding, as well as sales and the products and fundraising aspects of your program. And the growth track looks very similar. So we're still, again, we're focusing on pitching, customer development, leadership, and the same legal, branding, and development. But the differences that you'll see here is that we're focusing more on investments, because we're getting you ready for the seed stage, which is a larger accelerator. So we're looking for you to gain traction and to meet those KPIs. So your experience here does not end with Founder, the core program. This is different from other accelerators, because you don't just pay your money, you go through the program and you're finished. When you graduate, you can go into other accelerators and continue the program. It's a lifetime program. So you'll have the support throughout for your entire journey, for your company, as you're growing your company. There's no need to join any other accelerators. We'll carry you through that process. You still have access to the mentors and the support system and the global network. So when you're finished Founder, the core program, you can then go into the Accelerator Lab, which helps to prepare you. And most companies go directly into this. It's not about 3-4 months. And then when you graduate and you're ready, then you go into the VC lab, where you're thinking more about launching, going into getting those funds to really launch out and just grow tremendously, right? So these programs afterwards are free. You're not paying for it again. We're only expecting you to pay once. And as I said, you're getting lifetime help from your mentors and the network, and constant feedback to help you with the product development and going through your business. And when you're ready, you get access, you join the venture network and get access to angels and other accelerators, micro funds, and sister companies and so forth, and even more resources for you to build on that in a global sense. So, as you may have already known or heard, this program is not easy, right? Entrepreneurship is hard. As I heard one entrepreneur said, it takes a certain level of tenacity, because it's not an easy journey. You're going to get lots of failures. You're going to hear a lot of negative feedbacks. You're going to have a lot of setbacks. And you're just going to have the energy to push through all these challenges and just do not give up, right? Elon Musk said something like, entrepreneurship is like eating glass, right? There's a lot of glamour to it, but there's also the everyday part of it is really challenging. So the core program is hard, and it's designed to be that way, because it's pushing you to push you as far as you can, right? And also because starting a business is much harder. Right, the core program that you're going to go through is the easiest part of your business journey. The harder part is after you've graduated. So we expect, because we're hard, we expect a lot of dropouts. And so it's not unusual to have dropouts. And you could drop out for any reason. It could be that you didn't realize you had enough time to do it. You didn't realize that you didn't have a very good product, or it's just not the right time to launch that product. It could be that you don't have a good idea. And it could also be that you are probably not the best person to start a company. That's what to call them, entrepreneurs. So what a entrepreneur is basically a person who likes the idea of starting a business, but they don't have that core element, that tenacity, that drive to help them through those rough patches. And so they're not very committed. So you have these persons probably starting companies and then failing a lot and so forth. The application process is designed to weed out as far as possible persons with this kind of what you call profile. But at the same time, we have a psychometric test that also helps you to understand your weaknesses. people are not entrepreneurs forever. It could be that you need just more development and coaching. So if you get a feedback like this, it's not something to be to be upset about and feel like there's no hope, because there are persons that can develop into entrepreneurs. But with saying that, it means that if you know that you are not here, it makes no sense going into the program, because then you wouldn't have the stamina to continue and finish and to really build the business. And a lot of persons join with teams as well. So that could be something that you could also consider. These are some featured alumni from the core program. A lot of persons would have known about Udemy. I know if you've been in Europe and you do carpool in America, you would know about Travelcar. So these are companies that started out, and there are many, many, many more. As I said, over 45,000 portfolio companies worldwide. So I think that is basically it. I welcome you to tonight's event, and I really hope that I'll see a lot of you in the core program that we're going to start in January. And do not just leave this event and don't come to the rest. We have other events, so you can go on our website to see more about what other events are there. The events are free, there are no obligations, and you can get a lot of good information from the ecosystem leaders here in Jamaica and even worldwide. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Danelia. So you've learned about Founders Institute, right? Which is at the pre-seed stage, that requires you to come with grit and determination to make it on this path to become a world-class entrepreneur. Now we're going to expand a little bit more to get into the ecosystem. So I'm going to ask Cheryl to share with us what is Gen Jamaica. So we'll share what is Gen Jamaica up to, and give a little background on that as another accelerator option that exists in our ecosystem. Cheryl, over to you. We're not hearing it, Cheryl. We're seeing the presentation, but we're not hearing it at all.
I love to talk to myself, so I guess that's why.
Okay, great. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, I guess I wanted to mime, right? So as I was saying, thank you for the invite, founders. Thank you for the collaboration. You've been here and you're doing what you're doing, and you consistently do. Congratulations. So my name is Cheryl Stewart, and I'm the Managing Director, Gen Jamaica. So, oh God, I have to, okay, sorry. All right, so the Global Entrepreneurship Network is a 200-country member entrepreneurship network, started in 2007. We're one of the largest, if not the largest, network supporting entrepreneurs. We are basically operate on 4 pillars: understand, celebrate, support, and connect. So these are some of the areas that we work in. And as you see, we also have Accelerator Program. We have research, policy, and Gen Invest. Basically, it's angel network that's attached. And we have Startup Huddle, which is a community startup pitch that helps entrepreneurs and their companies to improve. But we don't only do Gen on the program, we collaborate. And that's why we're here. We're going to be collaborating with the Founders Institute, right? So the Entrepreneurship World Cup is one such brand that we started with a collaboration, and pretty much startups go here to pitch, they win money, and they can also access other programs. So I speak a little bit about the Accelerator Program, and pretty much it's a program play virtual platform with a structured mentorship for entrepreneurs. And we also target ecosystem builders. So it's not just for entrepreneurs, but we target ecosystem builders because we know that there needs to be efficiency at that level. One of our partners is the Commonwealth Business Women Network, and we're rolling out a pilot accelerator later this year into early next year, where we're looking for women in tech, and based on the criteria in our MSME and entrepreneurship policy, it is medium-sized firm. It's not a capacity building program, but it is more of a networking, expansion, you know, that sort of a thing. So we're doing that with the CBWN. This year, we celebrate 15 years, and lots of Jamaicans know Global Entrepreneurship Week. And the fact is, we celebrate every year, but they can't associate Gen with GEW. So we're excited to be a part of a global movement, and we want you to join us this November to celebrate, right? Now, we connect people, we connect organization, and that's the power of the network effect. So join us as we celebrate 15 years, and it's an easy process. Join Gen, and that's our URL, sorry. And we also are on Instagram at Gen JM Official. So watch out, we are gonna be talking to you throughout, especially November, to tell you exactly what's happening. So that's in a short nutshell with 45 seconds to spare, Mr. Moderator.
Well done, Cheryl. Thank you very much. Connecting organization, connecting people as you collaborate to strengthen the local ecosystem. Excellent. Now I'm going to ask Adrian to just share with us his perspective as to some of the technology challenges that exist in the ecosystem. And I was going to ask you, Adrian, to just give a little background about yourself before you get into your presentation. And this is important for us because what we're trying to do is to build companies that scale globally. And given the thesis is simple, the only companies that can scale from a small, tiny island like ours are companies that are enabled and supported by technology, because technology gives you the capacity to achieve economics of scale because of the marginal, the reducing marginal costs on the existing technology platform that's built. So that's why most global companies are technology-based companies, because the unit economics of the business model support that. And that's not something that we embrace, succinctly in Jamaica as yet. And so I've known Adrian for a while now, impressed by his work, and just going to invite him to share his perspective as he tries to disrupt the technology space in Jamaica.
All right. Afternoon, everybody. Thanks for that introduction, Wayne. Can you hear me? Okay. Good.
Loud and clear.
Wonderful. All right. So my name is Adrian Dunkley. I am the CEO and founder of the StarApple Group. We offer artificial intelligence, business intelligence, data science, and most recently, sports analytics services. And we're in Jamaica as well as in the US. We just expanded out. So not to say we have an unfair advantage, but the benefit of having a company built on technology, as Wayne has said, is scalability, marketability, not just in the Caribbean, but internationally. And if you have a solution to a problem that is not just in your area, but globally, then you have infinite number of customers you can actually tap into. That's really important. So even if you're starting small, the benefit of starting in Jamaica, for instance, that hasn't fully embraced tech startups as an area to really focus on is you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. That's the approach that we've been trying to take with respect to the launch. The company is just 2 years old. We have been funded. I'd say with respect to my background, just to be completely objective, I'm actually coming from corporate environment. I'm coming from finance and investment and banking. So I have a lot of experience on the other side of the table. And that was extremely beneficial for us because we pretty much know what the person is going to ask for. You know why they're going to barrel down evaluation. We know where they're looking for specifically in certain areas. So that's the benefit of the founders in this institute. So you have individuals who have been through what you are going to go through and have fond or very negative memories of experiences that you're currently having. So you have a support system with which you can actually tap into. Because trust me, when you get in that negotiation room and somebody's coming after you, you have these big people, you've heard about them throwing around huge numbers, oh, they have 50 years in this, 40 years in this. It's extremely important to have an understanding and the confidence to negotiate with them because you're offering a service, you're offering a product to your startup. And if you don't value it, if you can easily be knocked down in terms of the value of it, then no one's going to believe in what you're trying to do. Because a big part of this is, it's not just about you have a good product, you have product market fit and these things. It's really, is your story compelling? Can people actually believe in what you're trying to do? Can they actually see your vision? That's extremely important. So our fundings are really based on that vision. You're going to get into a lot of areas where you may not have any, maybe pre-revenue, for instance. How do you value a pre-revenue company? You have approaches, but if you're in the Caribbean, most of these large entities are not going to be okay using those valuation methods. They're going to focus specifically on, well, you're not making money, so that's the risk. But the reason why organizations, the reason why governments, the reason why countries as a whole need startups is because we push the envelope. We are the ones that actually propel them beyond what they think they're capable of. Many advances technologically are based on startups. And yes, they have support from government and private sector, but that's something you really have to remind yourself on a regular basis, is that we're doing this to improve the world. And we're trying to push people outside of their comfort zones and provide them more value that they can actually get. We're about multiplication of capabilities. We're not just about fitting into a specific mold. We are basically testing products, we're testing technology, we're testing capabilities so that they don't have to. And because of that, there's a risk premium. So they should be paying you for taking that risk that they're not going to take. They shouldn't be jumping on when you've already made it. Because at that point, they're going to have to pay billions of dollars to get involved. But I think a really important recommendation for anyone starting a company at any stage of it is believe in your product, test it. You need to be your biggest advocate, but also your biggest skeptic. You need to be able to convince yourself on a regular basis. Marketing is really important, obviously. If everyone sees you, they're going to believe in what you're doing. The more they see you, the more they're going to trust in what you're doing. But it's very important that the perception of your product and your company matches up with what you're actually offering them. That's it. I was trying to go off the cuff today.
Adrian. So I'm gonna place a question for you to think about. Say when we get to the discussion, you can answer. I want you to pinpoint for me some of the challenges you have in finding technology co-founder in Jamaica, and actually getting persons to understand what a technology company looks like and feel like. I know you know the investors, okay, coming from that world, but just, how did you bridge that conversation to get them to understand that, yes, a world-class technology company can be founded here in Jamaica and can scale. So all that question for now, I'm going to take it in the discussion section. And we're going to move on to Joelle, who runs a co-working space, which is also a very critical aspect of our ecosystem. We don't have enough of those. I personally am a customer of Joelle during the pandemic, when you didn't want to be at home. For, you find a nice space that you could go and work and so on. And they say creativity favors the collective mind, and a co-working space does enable that. So Joelle, I'm just going to ask you to briefly introduce yourself and then give your perspective on the ecosystem.
Sure, thank you, Wayne. So good evening, everyone. I am Joelle Smith. I am the co-founder and managing director of the Hub Coworking. Also an interior designer and creative director of If Walls Could Talk. So I wear the entrepreneur hat and also, I guess, an enabler hat as well. So I assume that, most of the people on this webinar have a business idea at the very least. And so you've done the relevant tests and market research to ensure its viability. So now you're ready to make some money and you have big dreams and you want to be a billionaire and the sky's the limit. But sometimes we're our own worst enemies, and the limit that should have been the sky turns out to be, just like an 8-foot glass ceiling, because there are things that you're doing that are hampering you from being a successful business. And you can go to a lot of seminars and they'll tell you that it's your mindset and your drive, and maybe there's too much competition in the marketplace, but there is a space for your idea. Just last week I was in a hardware store, and within a 1-mile radius, literally there are about 5 other hardware stores, and all of them had people in there. So competition can't be the only thing that could be holding you back. And so I just want to touch 2 things that I think companies or small businesses, startups tend to ignore. One of them is having a structure. And so lack of structure and the inability to scale, I think, are 2 important things that I just want to touch on briefly. How many entrepreneurs in this forum right now operate from home? And I can't say a show of hands, but I'm going to guess more than half of you. How many of you have a registered trademark, not a registered business, not that you went down to RGD and you sign up a little form and okay, yes, you have your business. That is important, but have you registered your trademark, your business name? How many of you have been meeting with clients in cafes and restaurants? How many are waking up at 10 o'clock and you don't really have a set structure? You call 2 suppliers, you drink some tea at midday, you don't have a system in place. How many of you are doing everything yourself? So your head of marketing, your accounting, your client relations, product innovation, HR, janitor, everybody, the true definition of head cook and bottle washer. And, these all seem like very, very basic areas to address for, basic business success, but we fail to formalize and structure our businesses for success from the outset and then wonder why we aren't successful. So, set the foundation, set up an LLC, set up a bank account, register your trademark, have updated quarterly and annual financial statements, know your cash flow, because there will come a time when you will want an investor, you're going to want to grow, you're going to need the capital. And these are the very basic things that you're going to have in place in order to obtain investments. In terms of the IP, I just want to go over that. It's really important. The Hub is a good example, because had I not registered my trademark, I would not be operating under that name now, because literally 2 weeks after I registered that name, someone else went and tried to register it. So it's very important. And of course, investors want to know that you know your business and that your brand equity and your brand identity are not vulnerable to theft. And you also want to know that you don't want to work hard on something only to realize that somebody went and hijacked your business, basically. So we start out with limited capital, and we decide that a physical presence is unnecessary. It's an unnecessary expense. So cafes are cheaper until we want to have that huge contract and we want to have that very formal business appearance, but we didn't set the foundation. We don't have an office, we don't have a meeting room, so we can't pitch. We don't have a business address because we know that XYZ company is not located in Havendale. So you continue to look like a startup, and therefore you're going to continue to operate like one, and you're going to lose contracts and potential customers. They don't even look your way because you continue to play small. So, don't be bogged down with admin matters, GCT returns, all kind of things are overdue, annual returns are unpaid because you're busy making money. So it's important to grow out of this early stage. And the way to do it is to formalize and maintain structure in operations from early, because these are normal growing pains. So if you're experiencing them now, this is something that every single startup has gone through. And so, you have accelerator programs and, founders institutes that will help you to maneuver, through these hiccups. So what are some of the opportunities in the ecosystem that can help you to formalize your business? So the Hub is a good start, and this is not an ad, but part of being an entrepreneur is knowing how to maximize the opportunities that are available. And a co-working space reduces office overheads by as much as 80%. What could be a $300,000 monthly bill? It could just be $60,000 by simply taking advantage of a shared economy. So you get the benefit of sharing that space, a shared office space. You get the benefit of meeting rooms and office business address, etc. And of course, with throwing co-workers, just as a bonus, so you can build camaraderie. And during times like COVID, like Wayne mentioned, it's so important to just have other people around you. We add value to our members, and we help them to grow by saving them money and providing a healthy environment and social ecosystem within which to excel. And I would say, more than 90% of our members leave because they're going to greener pastures. It's because they grow, and we're so happy. We literally just want to throw a party and send it through the door. Yes, congratulations, because growth is good. It means that we have played our part. You have now become too big for a small office, and so you need more square footage. And I like to use the example of Blue Dots because it's a popular company. Many of you likely know it. And Lauren was among one of our first clients at the Hub. And, Blue Dot quickly outgrew our space, but they were smart enough to take advantage of the Hub's facilities to get to the next level. And I'm going to illustrate the second problem that I noticed, which is inability to scale with, I guess, my own personal businesses. So let's say you're an investor. You have two companies that you have to choose from to invest in. One is, both businesses are profitable. One is more profitable than the other. One is, so the more profitable one, let's call that company one, which is, my interior design business. That it's a recognizable brand, but I am the CEO and I am the brand. So every output that comes from my business, I have to be involved in. And then there's company two, which is a Hub. And that is also a recognizable brand, but I don't have to be involved in every single process. It's a business that can have multiple locations, multiple employees. And of course, one is gonna assume that you just invest in a more profitable business, but you have to look at potential future growth. And that's where scalability comes in, because company one has a maximum capacity. There is only so much that one person can do. So I can only generate so much output. But company two, there's really no limit on the capacity that a business that isn't reliant on a limited resource can produce. So for instance, tech businesses, as Wayne mentioned and as Adrian mentioned, tech-enabled businesses are scalable, which is why you have a lot of accelerator programs that focus on businesses that operate in tech, because there is no limit to the growth, the potential growth that can come from your business. And so it's important to really set that framework from the get-go. This is the time when you are at a seed stage or you're at an early stage startup for you to really assess these things. So we spend a lot of time focusing on how profitable our business idea could be, but not enough time on ensuring that the business is scalable and there's no cap on how much money you can really make. So spend the time to cultivate a scalable business, ones that don't rely on a very limited resource in order to grow. So these are just two other challenges that I see being overlooked a lot by startups. I really wanted to use this forum to highlight them, and I hope that at least one person can have an aha moment, or at least ask themselves a few questions and address the gaps they may have as a result. So thank you.
Thank you. That was very insightful. Thank you very much. I think I've learned a lot from that about structure and scale. I can actually apply some of the lessons that you have highlighted. And I kind of outgrow your space as well. So I want to hear exits. So no, very insightful indeed. Now we're going to move on to Bianca, who before she became a creative and creativity and innovation strategist at Victoria Mutual, she was actually a pioneer who founded the first cohort of Founders Institute in Jamaica a few years ago. And so we're going to use Bianca's comments to kind of segue into the discussion, because I want her to just share her experience, her insights, and indicate some of the challenges with running that first program. Bianca, over to you.
All right, thanks, Wayne. So one of the things, just by way of introduction for me, and there may well be, some of our participants here, is that I'm often a little uncategorizable. People know me from a variety of spaces. I initially was in tech myself. I was a software developer. I did software sales. I've run web development companies. I've done a bunch of things in the tech space. And my work in the entrepreneurship space has been a mix of sort of formal and informal. Formally, I have participated in accelerators myself. I have run accelerator programs. I ran a Caribbean-wide program for tech startups. I have also coached and mentored startups. I have worked with startups outside of tech in the creative field, healthcare. And I sort of segued that into my current day job, which is corporate innovation. So I am the manager of digital innovation for the VM Group. We no longer go by Victoria Mutual. Thank you very much, Wayne. We are now the VM Group. Alongside that, where a lot of people also know me, and that's sort of how I've ended up in this discussion, is I have played a role in the ecosystem as a community builder. Because every time I see a gap and I say, well, why doesn't this exist? And I sort of start something to pull people together. And it's very often built around community. And it was in that way that myself and a friend and colleague decided to bring Founder Institute here back in 2017. And so we worked to put together our first cohort, which we ran successfully in 2018. And by the time we got around to running our second cohort, we started to have some challenges. I will start off with just by sharing some of the gaps that we saw in the ecosystem from then, some of which, to be honest, still exist and still need to be addressed. And they were why we thought the Founder Institute was a good idea then. It's why I'm very supportive of the team that is working to bring it back now. There has always been lack of support for idea stage startups, right? A lot of the programs that exist in the ecosystem, because they themselves are startups and are looking for their own sustainability, they are very focused on scaling startups. So they really want to see startups that have already found that product market fit, that already have that traction, that they can now help to grow. Which is a reasonable position to take when you are looking to build your own sustainability, which is very often based on the success of the startups in your program. It was a gap that existed then, and that was one of the biggest reasons we wanted to bring Founder Institute here, because they have a structured program that is designed to take you from just having an idea to having something that you can actually build on. The next thing that we noticed was that a lot of the programs were not very successfully connecting the global practices and standards that were needed to create these world recognized companies. I'm not going to say world class like Wayne, because I think we have created some world class companies that have not necessarily had the resources and the support to be world recognized. But combining those global practices with the local context, what does it mean to try and create that here? It's very simple for an international startup to say, you know, we will just throw up a payment page tomorrow. Here, getting that money into an account that you can actually use still presents a challenge. And so you want to balance the global practices with that local context. And so for us, Founder Institute was an interesting methodology because it was bringing these practices that had worked in countries all over the world, but tying it in with the local mentors who would bring their expertise, the local context about how they got started, how they have gotten things done here. Another thing that continues to be a gap, it's much better than it used to be, but is that idea of community and conversation. It's a sharing of lessons. It's sharing, you know, what has worked, what hasn't, what has, you know, which startups have succeeded, what failures have people had in trying to grow their startup, in trying to get investment, just learning from those that have done it. I think those conversations are being had more openly now than they used to be. And so that is definitely a positive, but it remains a gap because very often entrepreneurs are going at it alone. You know, they may or may not have other entrepreneurs in their circle who understand what they're going through. And so that sense of community is still really important. The thing that is interesting, and Tanelia mentioned this at the beginning, is there has always been a gap for a lot of these programs in terms of what is that path for the future. So you take startups through your program, you get them to graduation. What happens after that? How do you continue to support them? Where do they go next? And that was always an interesting piece of the Founder Institute program because it does have this sort of tiered pathway that you can graduate into. And then you're now working at the level of these startups all around the world, going through some of the other programs, accessing resources, you know, internationally with international mentors, international advice and guidance and so on. So that has always been an interesting piece of the Founder Institute model. And it is something that has been a little bit of a gap here with some of our programs, because very often if they're not connected, so for example, Gen Jamaica is now part of this global network, but if you don't have that kind of next step, you have startups graduating from programs and not really sure what to do next outside the structure of the accelerator they just came through, for example. And then finally, and I think, you know, this is the piece that Wayne spoke to. It was a gap then, it's still a gap now. It's those major success stories. It's those massive exits. What has changed is that we have a lot more local exits, which we didn't have several years ago. We are now seeing, you know, a lot more capital flowing into startups. We're seeing movement in the private equity space. We're seeing venture capital happening. We're now seeing startups that we've watched grow here list on the stock exchange, right? We didn't have a lot of those stories 5 years ago, definitely didn't have them 10 years ago. So we are moving in the right direction. And it's really now to look at how do we create those startups that are making that kind of dent on a global scale, where we're not talking about 1 billion Jamaican, we're talking about 1 billion US. So, you know, that's 150 times bigger than anything we've thought about. No, we have some startups that are doing amazing when they list on our stock exchange and they're raising several $1 billion Jamaican, which is incredible and did not happen 5 years ago. You know, we're seeing tremendous growth there, but it's now about getting it to the next level beyond that, where they can have that kind of impact on a global scale. And so that's still a gap, and that's something we're still working towards. But I think that programs like Founder Institute are a key part of helping to fill some of these gaps and get us to that space. I will leave it there. Some of what I've mentioned addresses some of the challenges that we did face generally And I'm sure a question or two may come up, but I will leave us there.
No, that was excellent, Bianca. You should be a professor.
Open to teaching opportunities if anybody wants to pay me. So
no, that's as a succinct an analysis of the ecosystem. I've heard, and I've been in this space for too long. See the gray hairs now, trying to find that missing link that can get us to that next level. I'm saying next level, that quantum leap level. It's easy for us to be successful and to sit on our laurels and say we have a 500 million exit on the junior stock exchange. But for us to shift the mindset and the culture scape of the young persons that we want to inspire to create the next version of Jamaica that we all desire, we have to have some massive transformative stories that you mentioned, right? And I think those stories can inspire young persons to say, okay, academics is one route, yeah, we can do that. Within a crumbling educational system, we can still acquire academic excellence, but we can actually become entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurs that can create a new future by developing market creating innovations that create jobs, develop ecosystems, develop market, and create, and the only way we're going to do that is if we have this kind of massive, massively transformative story of real success that's comparable and recognized locally and globally and regionally. And so I'm very encouraged and inspired by the contribution that you just made and from all the contribution. So we're gonna open the floor now for questions from the audience. But I just want to rally back now and go back to Adrian, to the question I asked him. So we could start the discussion with a question to Adrian about the technology challenges that in finding tech partners and in investors and partners understanding what a technology startup would look like in an emerging market like ours. And then there's a general question for all the panelists, except Bianca, because she answered hers already. But I want to know what you perceive to be the missing link. Because we have the energy, we have the creativity, we have the innovation, we have one of the highest ranking in terms of latent entrepreneurial potential according to the Global Entrepreneurship Monitoring Report. But yet we have not seen a breakthrough like what we have had in music and like what we have had in sports. So for Cheryl and Joelle, I want you to think about that. So after Adrian completes his response, I'd like your perspective as to what's that missing link that can help us to take us on that quantum leap that Bianca insinuated a while ago. Adrian? And then please, audience, please send in a question and Michael will take them and table them for you. Adrian?
Yeah, so that was probably one of the most, if not the most difficult parts of founding this company, finding a tech-focused co-founder. And I'll just say I didn't find one, I'll be frank, okay? And it's not for trying. The issue that came about was starting this company, there was no specific blueprint for Jamaica or the Caribbean to start an AI data science company. That's what we're doing. So pretty much we actually had to create a lab and then get individuals into that lab locally and internationally. Colleagues of mine, people that have been referred to me over years, and then just kind of put them in there and give them things to do to figure out, okay, who would be the best person. We didn't find a co-founder, but what we found were partners, right? We do have an official tech partner, which is Innovate 10X, John and Paul. People will be familiar with him. So that was a blessing because that's an entity that launched relatively recently. He launched, I think, 2 or 3 years before we did. And he's also coming from a corporate background, pretty much. And decades of experience, he's been through it, understood it. So before I even launched, I linked him and I said, Sheldon, I don't know what I'm doing. Let's talk. go through the last 2 years and tell me what's going on, right? That was the first thing. Just sat down there, took notes, opened my eyes, and I think that's really what Founding Institute is trying to do, give that opportunity. So we spoke for probably less than 3 hours, but I got a lot of information out of that guided the company and saved us probably 3-4 years of doing things that didn't make any sense. But cut to 2010 was the first company that I was involved with. Me and my friends, we started a tech company at the time. We're focused on fintech. We got together and, you know, the dreams were going to be $1 billion US in a month. We don't have to give out any loans or anything. We have to just build it and just pitch some people. We're amazing. All of this stuff. We used to late nights, 7 days a week, girlfriends, boyfriends, cussing people off, saying, why are you not here? What's going on? You know, running around, weaving, and that type of stuff. So we went through the whole emotional thing for that. And it failed. The startup failed, right? But I would say that was the best experience for me at the time because it was so low risk. We still all had full-time jobs. We're fully invested, but we got to fail very quickly. I mean, that's extremely important for startups in general. If you're gonna fail quick and then move on. Failure is a temporary state. Just keep going, find something else. Pivot, diversify, shift what you're doing, right? So the issue that we had specifically finding persons were there are individuals locally who are in information technology. They're either getting paid extremely well, so they're not going to see the point of joining a startup, or they're getting paid enough, but you can incentivize them to come, but they want 50% of your company, right? Which I guess depending on what they're bringing to the table, maybe they're worth 50%. If you don't have a very, very good idea of what your growth strategy is and what your product is, it does not make sense to give up that much equity so quick on, right? So we struggled with it. We didn't solve it per se, but what we did is we focused on technology partners locally and internationally, and then use that to figure out the best structure, the best operating model for it. Because you may find that you speak to 10 people who give you a recommendation, none of them are applicable to you, but they will swear by it because it worked for them. And one thing extremely important is this success bias, right? So the idea is there's too much of a focus on the startups that have actually made it, not enough focus on startups that have actually failed. You actually get a lot more insights from the failures because 1 in how many thousand actually reach a point of real profitability and sustainability. What about the others? What did they do or not do to get them to that point? Do that. Yeah, follow the successes as well, but you need to look at failures. It's very important. So what we ended up doing is, from the technology standpoint, we modularized it. So we couldn't find one tech person with everything that we needed. So we pretty much created buckets in the organization, which are actually subsidiaries now, and then focused on specific technology for each subsidiary instead of having one person responsible.
Yes.
That's been pretty effective for us so far, but it may be lower expectations, focus on what your clients need, and don't try and get somebody, don't pull somebody from Silicon Valley and promise them 80% of your company. They may just be sitting around for the next 2 years with nothing to do. Just manage those expectations. Yeah.
Thanks for that, Adrian. So we need a cohort of strong technology-based engineers. So, okay.
And incentives as well. I think that's important as well, because why is anybody going to join this field if they go to school and someone's going to tell them you're going to make $150,000 for having the same certification as someone? Now the company, we're going to get brain drain again. Yes. So we need the governments, we need the educational institutions, we need private sector involved in the process to incentivize these young persons to actually realize this is something that they can actually do for a living.
This is an amber alert for us because we're kind of promoting tech-based companies, so we need a lot of tech founders. So this is something that we definitely have to address within our the way we form partnerships and find mentors that are technology, who have a high level of technology skill. We're
Sorry,
at the 1 hour
can
mark.
I just jump in really quickly with a comment, just piggybacking on what you just shared, Wayne? before I go, because I actually have another meeting to go to now. On that comment, culturally within our ecosystem, particularly with startups and tech startups, one of the problems, and that's why particularly in that idea stage, very often what happens is those founders who do have some technical knowledge, they go straight to trying to build a solution because they have technical knowledge. And what we found back then, and it still happens now, is that the issue for many of them is not in the technical skills, right? It is in how to actually apply those technical skills to solve a real problem that people will pay for. And so one of the things, and this is particularly for the audience here, because very often people that have ideas, they have not yet built a startup because they often don't know where to start, is that you don't have to have the technology skills to start. For many startups and many models, what Adrian has done is gone into a very, very technology heavy type of startup, which is dependent on having those technology skills. But for many other technical startups, technology-based startups, the technology is not what you need in the beginning. Right now, there is a boom in the low and no code space that allows non-technical founders to express the idea that they have, to create their own prototypes, etc. And so I don't want people to feel discouraged if they don't have the technical skills themselves, or like Adrian faced, are unable to find a technical co-founder because they may not in fact need one until they know if the idea that they have is solid, until they know if people are willing to pay for it, there's an actual need that they're addressing. So I just wanted to throw that in because it was a problem that we did face several years ago. I know it's an ongoing challenge in terms of finding those technical skills, but it's also not the biggest barrier to many non-technical founders, because what they really need to know is whether their idea is going to be able to stand the test of time, which can be found out without having the deep technology resources upfront. So with that said, I'm going to leave you for this evening. Thank you very much for the discussion, everyone, and good luck again to the new Founder Institute team.
Thank you, Bianca. And very insightful comment about not worrying about the tech skill. So I like that. That kind of create hope for those non-technical persons amongst us. Thank you very much for your contribution. Hope you do well in the next meeting and have a good night. Now, Joelle, Cheryl, your response, please, about the missing link and what we need to do to accelerate a greater response to developing transformative companies from our small shores.
So I mean, Bianca mentioned quite a few of the things that I think are some of the key missing links. I've been, a part of the Branson cohort. I facilitated the first Founder Institute in 2017 that Bianca started. We have hosted several innovative, workshops, webinars, etc. When we used to meet in person quite often, we had one month, probably, every month. And in every single one, someone would say that the greatest challenge is financing. And, for a while, I believed that, but then knowledge and education about the entrepreneurial space, about, how to run a business, how to manage a business, what to expect, managing expectations, etc., made me realize that financing is actually not the problem because it is out there. It is possible to get financing without security. Dbj will tell you that they have a pool of funds sitting there that people never consume in totality because the businesses just aren't ready. The businesses either don't know that the financing is available, or they just aren't ready to accept the financing. And this is unsecured loans. These are grants in a lot of instances. And so I think
clarify that. I did not ready or they're not capable of accessing the funding?
Well, it's really both, because the capability and the readiness are one and the same for me. And it's simply because they just don't have the knowledge or the education about how it is, what are the, again, it goes back to the foundation things that you need to have in your business in order to acquire financing, right? What are the things that your business needs to be doing? So we have an amazing entrepreneurial mindset, right? We know how to make money. We do that. We're Jamaicans, we're hustler, right? But that is the problem. We stay in hustle central and we don't formalize the business in a way that it's palatable to someone else so that they can feel confident that when they're giving you money, you are going to be maximizing on those funds and actually generating a return. And, you know, in DBG's case, you know, contributing to the society, etc. But to an investor, they need to see that they're going to be making money. So it's really learning. We need to be more open to learning everything that we possibly can. And so the more accelerator programs that we have around, the more people jump on the internet and educate themselves about their industry. I mean, I'm gonna use co-working spaces as an example, right? So we were the first ones, and other co-working spaces opened since we did. But I would say that sometimes you look at a business and you say, this is easy. We can just open a place because I just need a space. I need a space and some tables and chairs, and we just put some people in there. But you have to also educate yourself about your sector. Co-working doesn't have a hyphen, right? And so for every new co-working space that I see pop up, with like a hyphen in there, I know they didn't read a thing. They probably don't know where co-working generated, that kind of thing. So it's not to put down anybody's business, but it's just more to drive home the point that you have to educate yourself about your own sector, your own industry. It's not just make a money. You understand? So it's really, education, I think, is really the gap. And the more of these programs that we have, I think it will be, we really ought to be teaching this in school from high school so that people are accustomed to, you know, running successful businesses and knowing how to do that.
Thank you. I agree with you. I think knowledge is the key. Cheryl? Cheryl actually wears many hats, you know. I don't want to load her up, but she has been in this space almost as long as I have, although she looks as younger than me. But and she has been in other capacity where she supports small businesses. If you want to mention them, she can. I'm not going to put her on the spot, but Cheryl.
Which one you want me to mention, Wayne?
We're at now in the ministry and we're at heart and stuff like that.
Okay, so for about 10 years, I was the entrepreneurship manager at Heart, where we built out entrepreneurship programs that were, in a lot of cases, used in technical high schools in Jamaica. We pretty much developed MSME grant program as a response to what the associations and different entrepreneurship organizations told us that they needed. And that started after a rocky start, but you know, just like a startup, those challenges were there.
Were the grants taken up?
Yes, but the challenges were, and I'm seeing it here in even Gen, and I have evaluated other applications as well. People don't present themselves well in the first place. So you get an application form or you go online, however it is, and you just basically just jot down some things on paper, not knowing that it's a reflection of yourself. And then two, that is part of the evaluation that is used to weed you out, right? I can use an example. In last year's Entrepreneurship World Cup, or EWC, and I'll just respond to somebody's question. Anybody can enter EWC, but it's closed for this year. We had our finals about 3 weeks ago. Jamaica finals, we go on to Caribbean, and then we go on to the international. So just looking back after we finished the national finals and the Caribbean finals, at that level, there was some space. People were like, scores were tight and all of that. And you know what they used to weed them up? What was initially presented in the application. So irrespective of how well you can pitch or how well you can, you know, answer the judges or whatever, but that initial presentation of self is important in getting you on the journey. And it is something that I sat and thought about the other day, is the whole thing of, even in corporate, people are not taught how to present themselves. I mean, we're in a tropical country, but image says everything, and you can dress to suit what you're doing. But the whole thing on it is you only get one opportunity to make an impression, right? Something else that I see missing, especially when it comes to application for government funds, people just not putting in the information, but they expect. So sometimes when I look and see well-known names and how they present it, I wonder if they really are serious about wanting to access funds. When we did the first grant funding program at Heart, it was a 20% approval. We just couldn't process the rest for one reason or another. And when we started the second one, I saw it. I'm seeing something similar when we did EWC last year. So I don't know if it's culture or what, but as entrepreneurs, if we need to get ahead, you have to change your circle to change your circle, right? So a lot of people, they don't know where to go, but they're afraid to ask, you know, because, oh, if I share it with Adrian, you know, I mean, take to him, going to take away thing because I'm way ahead. So the whole trust factor is something in the Caribbean that we are, it holds us back, right? Yeah. Also, there's a level of committed mentors who really know the entrepreneurship space. People can volunteer to become mentors, but if you're always in a 9-to-5, there's so much you can do and no more, because you would not have had the journey and the understanding. And it is something that's happening in the space when it comes to angel investment. A lot of people that are involved in angel investment in this country never started at the bottom. They inherited what they had. So therefore, they couldn't help Adrian. They couldn't help Joelle. They can't help the people that are around that need that sort of a help. So we need to ask the people who have gone through. So like Adrian, what can you do to help the people who are coming behind or almost, you know, beside you? So looking at organizations like the Founders Institute, who have cohorts, you can go back to your cohorts and use those people to help. Looking at Is Gen Jamaica, we can pull from resources from over 200 countries. And that's why we would partner with the Founder Institute, because you have your competencies, we have our competencies. And what we at Gen say, it is one global entrepreneurship ecosystem.
Absolutely.
Because we're all Jamaicans, and anywhere we go, it's black, green, and gold. Simple.
All right, Cheryl, powerful stuff. Powerful stuff. Well said. Well spoken. You have my vote.
I don't want to become Prime Minister though.
still when you're ready. All right, I'm getting some questions in the Q&A. Not much relevant to the discussion so far, but I'll take them just the same. It has to do about accessing the Dbj Grant. You have two methods of doing that. One is through the approved financial institution, which are banks primarily, and then you could do a direct application to Dbj through the Innovation Grant or the Ignite program, which is the BIGE program. So go on their website, look for the BIGE program, BIGEE, all caps, and you'll be able to have access to either make a direct application or go through the banks. The banks, in distributing Dbj funds, through the AFIs, the affiliate, the approved financial institution, there are some challenges recorded. Some banks push your own stuff, but you can go there for the list. We have a partner bank that's a part of the partnership for Founders Institute Jamaica. That's First Global Bank. We'll have them on one of the future events so they can elaborate on that. Ricardo wants to know where to go in terms of he's starting a coding company. He wants to know where to go. What I'm going to tell you, Ricardo, join the program. Michael will send you the link to the application. We'll pair with a mentor like Adrian. That will, you say you don't have to learn what Adrian took 2 years to learn. You'll learn it in a couple months because he has a step now kind of in his rearview mirror. And, hindsight is 2020. So we'll pair with Adrian and you can learn from him. Someone asked about the venture capital in Jamaica. There are a few venture capital firms in Jamaica. Dbj have been doing a good job in, trying to stimulate venture capital firms. I know VM successful in the last call. We know about the C Fund, and I know about Jamaica Small Business Fund. Unfortunately, as we indicated earlier in the conversation, most of those venture capital funds are for more growth and mature stage firms, not so much for the early stage, idea stage. Those would be more, you might have to go to the angel investors for that. How can a high schooler like myself build a startup and from an anonymous attendee? Good question. I like that because we want high schoolers to start very early in the process. This is something we should actually, put in the curriculum. But what you can do is just, if you don't have the time or the bandwidth to attend or to sign up for the Accelerator program, just stay tuned to the Founders Institute site. Jamaica, we have a series of events leading up to the end of the year, and plus we have access to all the global events that will take place across the Founder Institute network globally, and so we'll make that those events available to you, and these are learning events that you can learn. The session is recorded. I'll also ask Daniela or Michael to explain how that will be accessed afterwards, and then we'll take a hand raise from Joelle.
Okay, good evening, everyone. So the recording will be available in your emails after this session. So you'll get an email with the video in about maybe in a day or two with the recording. Otherwise, it'll be available on YouTube. So you can do a search. You can also get the link to that as well. So you can also share that with friends and co-workers and anybody else that might be interested.
Joelle?
Yeah, thanks, Wayne. Someone had, I think, mentioned with regards to accessing Dbj funding that, the financial institutions make it hard and, they push their own products. And again, I used to think so, but I have accessed Dbj funding twice in two different capacities. One was a grant, one was a loan. And in both instances, it's a little bit of what Cheryl said in terms of you have to present your business properly. The process is rigorous. There are a lot of forms to complete. if you don't know your business inside out, if you don't know your financials inside out, if you don't know what you're going to be using the money for in detail, then you can't access the money. Nobody's going to give it to you. You have to have proper financials, and that is something that you need to start doing from early, because no bank is going to give you money if you don't have your financials in place. And it doesn't mean that you have to be the most profitable business on the planet. That's not what they're asking for. They want to know that, they want to know how you're generating revenue, what your expenses are. You need to have an accountant on board. Stop trying to do it yourself. You know, you have to maintain proper bank accounts. You can't, if you're going to operate as a sole trader, then you need to separate business funds from personal funds. I mean, very simple things that we think everyone should know, they actually aren't aware of until it's too late. They go to the bank and, you know, they're denied because you don't have everything in place. Pay your taxes, you know, because no bank is giving you money if you don't have a tax compliance certificate either. So it's all of those things that you have to have in place, and those are very foundation, you know, things. And it's not as hard as you imagine it to be, or as people say it is, if you have all the foundation things in place.
Joelle, what recommendation you have for a new business that has no financial history, and it's just, they only have projections?
So I want to say that this part I'm not sure of, but I think DBJ may have facilities for startups with no financial history. I think those might be grants though, as opposed to a loan. So you kind of have to stick with, you know, follow their Instagram page, go on their website and see what is available, the various facilities that they have available, read all the details. They're sometimes, you know, quite lengthy, but read it. If you want the money, you have to go in search of the money.
Absolutely.
So there are grants out there. Cheryl sends out emails all the time. So I think once you get on Founders Institute, you'll be a part of some kind of network, whether it be the Hub, whether it be Founders Institute, Branson, wherever, you know, Global Entrepreneurship Network, because that's where you're going to get the information and know where the grants are. So that's what I would suggest. It doesn't make sense to go to a bank for a loan if you are a startup, unless you have some kind of security, because you don't have any financials to show them.
So it's sweat equity first, then friends, fool, and family.
Correct. Yeah, because that's exactly how I started out. I literally went to 3 friends and said, guys, I have this idea. I want to feel about it. Give me some money now. And, you know, we sat down and we went through everything, and, you know, everybody was on board. So yeah, sometimes that's what you have to do. You have to find, if you really want it, you have to go in search of the funding.
Excellent. We're going to have a subsequent event on funding for startups. So, because a lot of the questions came out about that. Someone asked, I don't know if Tanelia or Tanil want to take this, about how much it is to get started in the program.
Okay, yes. So the early deadline, it's about $500 now, $499 if you register by October. And if you apply on the late deadline, which is December, you're looking to pay about $600. Someone did ask about a payment plan. Yes, if you want a payment plan, we can arrange one. Just send us an email after you've sent your application. So do the application, do the psychometric test, and then send us an email requesting the payment plan, and then we can call you and with your contact details, and we can call you and make an arrangement with you.
There's a special I should mention. We are supporting the Tourism Enhancement Fund in their incubator program, and they have a special call out now, or will be coming out soon, for innovation within the tourism sector. And that for participants in those in that vertical that we want to call it, the tourism vertical, they will be sponsored. So you have to come, as Joelle indicated, and Cheryl, you have to come with a killer application for that, because that will be, they'll basically be an early investor in a business by, investing in you to be a part of the acceleration program. So that's a special promotion that we're going to have another event to promote in significant way. So if you're in the tourism space and you want to submit an innovation, a new idea, we will help you TF will help you to finance your entry into the program.
Another thing I want to add, Wayne, is that we have a number of partners who will give you a seat. So we have fellowships available for persons who qualify. These are going to be to very good founders. So if you have very high potential, you might be one of the recipients to one of these scholarships. So as I said before, if you don't have the funds, you don't see it coming, still make the application, still do the entrepreneurship DNA test, and you can either get access to one of these scholarships if you're really good, you're a really good founder and we really like your application, or you can just speak to us and we can arrange something. So do not make the funds a hindrance to your application.
Excellent. Entrepreneurship is a leap of faith. Come with a brilliant idea and a passion behind it, and everything else will fall in place. So don't worry about the fees for now, just apply. Do you facilitate companies in the agricultural industry, Tenelia?
For FI?
Correct. For this cohort.
We're not going to refuse anybody, because we have seen, well, the FI network have seen companies that seem to be service-like, but when you really check it out, it's like it's a different service. So come with your idea. We're not going to refuse it in the beginning stages because it can grow to be something else. Because even though we're saying agriculture is not something that we'd usually take, because we're not really taking anybody from the service industry, but it depends on the kind of service and if we can turn it into something technical. Like, for example, a lot of service industries can turn out to be like a transportation company, like what Walmart is a logistics company, really, not just a wholesaler. So come with your ideas still. We're not going to refuse anybody. Don't throw it out because you think that, it's not tech, so it's not going to be successful. Still come with it and we'll build on it. If it doesn't work, that's it. We can work with something else, but you'll never know where it will turn around until after you've gone through the program.
And I emphasize the quality of the application, as Cheryl says, because we are actually starting up ourselves. So we're engaging different partners and sponsors. And one of the early discussions we have with a sponsor is that they want an agricultural processing vertical. So so submit a very good application, and we'll see what's possible.
Wayne.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Can I seek permission here, because I heard agriculture and it just sparked something. So Gen Jamaica is also partnering with Future Agro Challenge. We're
good.
Right. And we're open for applications right now. And there are 14 different areas that people can apply. So if you look at the Future Agro Challenge, it's facagro.com, or you can send me an email if you're so agricultural inclined to cstewart@genglobal.org. So what is happening is that we're taking persons on a one-year journey, building their competencies and their organizations. And from that, one person will represent Jamaica at the international competition next year, October. So it is a competition, but there's a capacity building element, because we figure that why enter a competition and not give value to the ecosystem? So you know, that's open right now if you. So, what's that? Tanil. I just wanted to share that with the team.
No, perfect. That's good.
I'll even take you up on that. I want to start up a farm. So
All right. So you can send me the information. We can work it through.
great,
So,
great.
Good.
so if you look for Future Agro Challenge, if you Google it, Google has everything, but you can just contact me. Future Agro Challenge.
Well, we're connecting people, we're connecting organizations, we're connecting opportunities. So that's why we're here. We're connecting the world. I think once you come into the family, the Fund Institute family, have access to resources locally, regionally, and globally. And I think that's one of the advantages of being a part of this movement that we're trying to create. It's now just after 7:30. So we had asked for an hour. We're going an hour and a half, but we have not lost anybody. So, it must be that we're having a good conversation. So if there's anybody else wanted to share a comment or ask a question, feel free. Michael will allow you to speak. If not, we can just wrap up and close off. Or if the panelists want to make any final closing remarks before we go. I'll just give the floor. I'll see if there's no more questions coming from the floor. So we're going to close off. So I'm just going to ask.
Once somebody asks Gen Jamaica webpage.
Yes. So yeah, what's the website? What's the URL?
So it's genglobal.org/Jamaica.
Good.
Right. And we're also on Instagram at Gen JM Official.
Great.
GEN. Right.
Right. So since you're on the floor, Cheryl, let us ask you to give your closing remarks, and then we'll go to Adrian, and then Joelle will close us out with the final comments.
Okay, so as an ecosystem builder, it is important to me to have partnerships across all areas and to really share the value that we add. And what I envision and what I would love to see is for us, as Wayne said, as a family, to create that, to create multiple thousands of unicorns, because we want Jamaicans to know we're world beaters, we're world creators, we can do anything, anywhere, just if we make our minds up. And again, I say, Founders Institute, congratulations, thank you for the invite. And we want you as well to celebrate Global Entrepreneurship Week with us so we can have further discussions. All right, Joelle?
Thanks for the invite, Cheryl. We will. Adrian?
Yeah, I'll piggyback on that. So about building partnerships, relationships, saving your time, saving your money, getting as much revenue as possible, and giving your company idea longevity. So join us, be a better founder, and beyond the point of having a startup. You said having $1 billion company, the next Amazon, the next whatever it is. Those are blueprints we're trying to build above what currently exists, but bettering you and bettering the world at the same time. So please take the opportunity.
Thank you, Adrian. And Joelle?
I think everybody pretty much summed it up, but I guess, I'd probably just leave everybody with, these 2 points. Set the proper foundation for your business. You will not regret it. What was my second point? I forgot.
Scale.
I had it in my head and then I forgot. No, but at the end of the day, I remember now, keep learning. Yeah, that was the second point. Keep learning, get as much information as possible, attend as many seminars as you can, There's always something to learn. Talk to as many people as possible, and join a network of entrepreneurs. You'd be surprised how much you can learn from even people's failures, as Adrian mentioned, people's successes, and just what is available to you out there in the ecosystem. So learn.
Thank you very much, panelists, and thank you very much, attendees, and thank you very much, the local leadership team. I think we had a very, very, very good discussion for our first try. We have a series of events coming up. We'll be blasting those events out. Make every effort to attend, because it's not just about promoting Founders Institute, but it's about building awareness and knowledge about entrepreneurship at this level and the next level. And then my final comment, I really want you to lean into this now, and I really want you to believe when I say we can create a billion-dollar company, a US billion-dollar company from this small piece of rock. I want you to believe that, because eventually we become what we believe. We manifest what we mentally imprint in our minds. And so if you can believe that, we can achieve that. And, we are designing this for unintended consequences. So if some of you will take somebody to a billion-dollar company within the next 5 to 7 years, we will. But we're also designing for failure, as Adrian indicated in our makeup. So if we don't get all of you to a billion, we'll get somewhere to 100 million, somewhere to 10 million, somewhere to 1 million. And these unintended consequences will have a significant impact on the ecosystem, just the same. And it certainly will transform your life. So invite you guys to come and join us on this ridiculous challenge that we've put on for ourselves. And I think with our creative energy and collective consciousness, we can make it a reality. Thank you very much. Have a good night.